Okay. Well, good evening, everyone. I'm Jackie Bartlett, and along with Genevieve, we are going to be talking with you today about a partnership approach to instructional coaching. We're going to be taking a look at 3 of the 7 principles that Jim Knight suggests. We're going to be talking about equality, choice, and voice. I'm Jackie Bartlett. I am an academic coach for Sherwood Elementary School in Salinas, California, and we go TK through 6.
And I'm Jen Almanzar. I am a coordinator, state and federal programs at Kings County Office of Ed. I do all the fun stuff, all the planning, LCAPs, SIPSs, SARCs, all that good stuff. So glad to see you all here today.
Okay, so we're going to start with a quote, and I want you to just kind of think about it and think about, how this affects you, as Dr. J was talking about. What are you feeling? It says, coaches should see themselves as equal, respect others' choices, and encourage others to voice opinions. Use the partnership principles as a point of reference. I don't know if that stirs any thoughts or ideas.
So maybe if they want to share an idea right in the chat, Jackie, like if that drives you in some way, touches you in some way, please add to the chat anything that you feel. And it's kind of late. So Jackie, you want to tell me what this means to you?
Sure. So I really like the concept of seeing ourselves as equal, because I think a lot of times teachers have this perception that we are not always equal. And so I think for us to be approachable and just be seen as equal is really, really important. I think the whole concept of choice gives people entitlement and makes them feel more, yes, equal to teachers. Now I'm looking at the chat. I think it's something that I try to do as teachers and students too. Yeah.
I love that concept of to students, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, learning with the students. Teaching is definitely hard. It is difficult today more than any other time.
Yes, coaches as learners. I love that.
Yeah.
Every teacher I work with, I learn.
Shay, you wanna say something? Go for it.
I was just gonna say, I think sometimes like coaches, there are so many hats, right? So as a coach, sometimes you're voluntold to go work with a teacher, and that's a whole different dynamic than when you have a relationship like you do at your site. Like I have 26 sites, right? So like trying to do that coaching it's just very, very, it's hard, right? I feel, because the coach definition is too broad. In my opinion, a lot of people are coordinator, really they're coordinating programs or they're doing that, but they're called a coach. And so there's that it gets tricky.
Yeah, it really does.
And I do see the coming in as a learner, right? And everyone in education is a learner. I would hope so.
Definitely.
I think that whole voluntold too that Shay mentioned though.
Yeah, and I think that's where we're gonna get an opportunity to see, making sure that we offer people voice, when we can, because we don't want to be that voluntold. We don't want to impart that on our teachers.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you all for sharing. We appreciate that. The partnership principles. So this whole section that Jackie kind of we worked together on, it is actually one of the principles. And of the first principle, right, the partnership principle, there are all these pieces. It starts out with the equality piece, choice, the voice, which we will be focusing on these 3 pieces today. Then it moves on to dialogue and reflection and the praxis and the reciprocity. And I know that there is more to this, and Jackie has the book, right, Jackie?
Yes, the book is here. If you haven't, let me put it out here. Instructional coaching. So it's in a partnership approach to improving instruction. And it's kind of like a really amazing reference manual. So I highly encourage you to check it out if you haven't seen it before.
Oh, and I just did want to talk about what Marie just said as well. As a coach, right? We do feel sometimes like the middleman, almost like the person between the teacher and the admin, and it's tricky to figure out sides. Yes, we shared our slides earlier, and I'm sorry for anybody that came in late. Here you go. So the slide deck is in there. You are free to jump on. I know we're going to have you guys do some work in there a little bit in a bit, so please jump on. The link is in the chat. And let's see. So let me go on to here. So we're going to start out with what makes good communication. And I kind of just wanted to start out with just your definition of communication. What does that look like? Could you either unmute yourself? I mean, I feel like we're a small enough room, or just share it in the chat, whatever you feel comfortable doing. What do you see? Like, what are the key pieces to good communication, just in general? What do you look for? What does that say to you? Good communication. Oh, I love that, Nancy. A good heart. That's definitely being open, right? I think that speaks to what Dr. J was saying earlier, right? Open,
Listening.
valuing others' thoughts. Yes.
Non-judgmental.
I love that. Listening is two-way. Yes. Goes both ways.
Don't be distracted. Oh, and that can be so difficult. But
Oh yeah.
So
I love the listening, right? Too, is not just talking over people. It's that whole listen, like listen without thinking that we're going to say something. Good communication builds trust. Best intent. Yes. Assume best intent and deep listening, being honest with each other, not being distracted with others' tech, which is so super hard right now, right? When you're on a Zoom with somebody and you know that they have 3 other tabs open, at least.
Yeah.
Maybe more.
Yeah.
No judgment, focused, believing that complaints are valuable. They are, right? To be heard. Like, do you hear that I'm having a tough time, obviously? And connecting beyond work related items. I love that.
Yeah.
Those are all good ideas.
Do you mind if I jump in for a second?
Yeah, please.
When I first became a coach, I've learned a lot, but when I first became a coach, and I just felt like people complain to me all day long. All I do is listen to people complaining. And gradually I came to see that's people telling me important things. Like, it took me a while to realize how valuable that is. Anyway.
I love that. Yeah. Because
it also means that somebody trusts you. Like, if they're willing to complain to you, that means they trust you. Anyway, I learned that this is a gift and not a punishment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's hard to be that raw with people. It's a gift, definitely. Focused empathy. Yes. Yes, sometimes we do become, well, they look to us to be a problem solver and provide a service. Yes. Now, whether or not we should do that is a whole other thing.
All right. So the first, we're going to be watching a few video clips that Jim Knight is providing information to us, and then we can reflect upon what he's saying. And so we thought it would be a good idea to start with the definition. And so we wanted to take a look at equality. And we found that this definition, so equality is about ensuring that every individual has an equal opportunity to make the most of their lives and talents. Okay. And so we felt like these were the three most important pieces that Mr. Knight is providing us with, but please listen and think about some of the things that kind of move you, I guess. So coaches see themselves as equal. We respect others' choices, and we encourage others to voice opinions.
You hear that?
The first principle is the principle of equality. I think if you said to somebody walking down the street in North America or around the world in democracy, and you said, do you think all people are equal? Do they are created equal? We'd probably say, yeah, it's a foundational principle to any democracy that all people are equal. But I'd like to flesh out that idea a little bit and talk about what it means just in practical terms and in the way we interact with other people. For me, to say that we are equal with other people means that we see the other person as of equal value. The most powerful person in the world can treat a janitor like a person who counts. They can see them as a person who matters. And to say that I see you as important is that I believe you need my attention, that your words count, and I'm going to be present to you. But most importantly, it's that I believe you count. I believe that you matter, and I don't think I'm more important than you. Now, a lot of books I've read that sort of flesh this out, but one of the most important is this one by Edgar Schein called Helping. It's a great book, I think. Also a great audiobook if you're driving around and you want to listen to it. I first read it that way and then went through the book again. And Schein is, of course, one of the most influential people talking about organizational culture and how people interact. His book on organizational culture and leadership is seminal in the field of organizational behavior. And in this book, he talks about helping relationships when one person helps another person. And what Schein says is, if I feel the person who's helping me thinks they're better than me, I'm likely not going to embrace what they're giving me. He says it in a couple different ways. He said, if I put myself one up, or if I'm perceived to put myself one up, and put the other person one down, it's going to significantly interfere with the capacity to be helped. People will resist help if they feel they're not getting the status they deserve. There's another way he puts it, he said, especially when you were talking adult to adult. If one adult puts themselves in the role of being a parent and puts the other person in the role of being a child, saying, I need to tell you what to do, I can't trust you to do this, I have to watch you, I have to keep on top of you because you can't be trusted to do it on your own. If I take on the role of being a parent and put you in the role of being a child, what Schein says is, people will resist. In fact, sometimes they resist, he says, in childish ways. Another way in which we can be unequal is in judging other people. I've said this many times, but judgment is a learning killer. Judgment is an intimacy killer. The moment I judge another person, I just say, what are they thinking doing that? Don't they know better than that? I can't believe they did that stupid thing. The moment I judge another person, I put myself up here and I put them down there, and I inhibit the capacity for intimacy, to really feel equal with the person. And also learning, because if I judge the other person, they're not going to be very vulnerable with me. They're not going to open up. I'm not going to bare my soul to somebody who makes me feel like I'm not a good person. Now, I want to be clear. I'm not talking about discernment. I'm talking about moralistic judgment. When my comment says, not that here's what reality says, but my comment says you're not a good person. And when I say something like, how did they come to parent like that? Don't they know any better than that? I can't believe this stuff they're doing. Can you believe that? Or can you believe this new person we've got on campus, the way they act? I can't, when you judge another person, you put yourself up here and you put them down here. Now, I was working in New Orleans and I was working with a group of teachers, and there was a coach over here and there was a teacher over here. And the teacher was struggling because the class was really out of control. And she said she needed help, and she was a young teacher, very committed, bright, but way over her head. And she said, sometimes the kids come in my class and they're fighting and they're rolling around on the floor, and I don't know what to do. And her coach was sitting over here, and she looked at the teacher and she said, "How do you let that happen? That shouldn't be going on. How do you let that happen? That should not happen in your class." And what she did is she judged the teacher. And in that moment, the teacher was out. She was done. She didn't say another word, because once she was judged, she was unwilling to take the chance that it would take to learn. She wasn't going to be vulnerable because she'd been judged. So there's a lot wrapped up in this idea of equality, but if you wanted to summarize it in a basic notion, it's the notion that I see the other person as no less important than myself. I see the other person as a person who counts. That's manifested in the other principles we're going to look at, starting with choice.
Okay. So was there anything that really kind of stood out to you as you were listening through that?
Sorry. There we go.
Okay.
So what for this next part, the question that Jackie's asking, what we're trying to do, and I'm going to take this other presentation just to kind of show you. Let me get out of here. There we go. Okay, there we go. The Post-its. So you want to explain this one, Jackie, or you want me to?
Yeah, go ahead if you would.
Sure. Okay, so if you just, the ideas that Jackie was kind of talking about on this slide, if you just move over to the next slide, and I'm going to reshare that with you just in case you don't have that link. If you would go ahead, please grab a Post-it, maybe write any important concepts that you took away from there, because we kind of want to memorialize it here.
Thank you.
Yes, and all you have to do is, just grab it and then just put a Post-it wherever you'd like.
Oh, wow. There are some incredible ideas. Conversation dies in its tracks. Even if there's a hint of a teacher having done something wrong. So true. Parent-child roles. Oh, I like that too. Equal partners work together for common goals. Great. Equal footing. No moralistic judgments. Yes. You blame somebody else, there's no way you want to collaborate with that person.
I think I really loved that parent-child role. I didn't even think about that until he said that.
Mhm. Okay. And we go to 6:20. I just kind of want to keep an eye on the,
Oh, that's right. I forgot to check.
yeah. So we might have to.
6:20, you said?
Mhm.
Okay. I think we're doing okay. We're not too far off.
Okay. Bite your tongue. I love it. And observing something that ought to be
Oh, yeah.
diced.
That is hard
Mhm.
because we're human and we do see things, right?
Right.
That may be like, ouch. But how do we address it in a constructive manner, right?
Exactly.
Maybe just another minute or two.
So I was just thinking about the biting your tongue thing. I also think we have to be kind of careful of our body language
Oh,
and be super aware of that.
Poker face, Nancy.
yes.
Poker face.
Yes.
And the eyes.
I'm horrible about that. I'm like, oh, gotta to pull it together.
You have to practice. You have to definitely practice.
And look at where your arms are, where your legs are. Like, yeah, George did it.
Yes, that's all that cognitive coaching, right? Trying to mirror them and be like, okay, I'm just gonna mirror you a little. Ooh, awesome. I really appreciate that. You guys are doing such a great job. I appreciate you all sharing. Those are some great ideas. So let's go ahead and we're gonna move on to the next piece really quick. Our next focus is choice. And for choice, we just wanted to have that common definition. What is choice? Choice is about teachers making most, if not all, of the decisions in their classrooms, allowing them that choice. So here we go. We're going to watch another clip. Some of the takeaways that we've seen here for this piece is studies show most people feel motivated when they are confident at what they do, have a large measure of control over their lives, and are engaged in and experience positive relationships. Okay, so we're going to watch another video with him, and then we're going to go ahead and share out from there.
The next principle is choice. In many ways, choice is just a natural extension of equality. If I see you as a person who is equal, then you're going to have some choices over what you do. And I think we misunderstand this, and we misunderstand its primacy in life. I think without choice, it's very hard to get commitment. The old saying is, when you insist, they will resist. And if you don't give people a choice, they're probably going to resist. We learn, whether we're talking about a 6-year-old or an 86-year-old, a bad strategy for change is to say you have to do it. And so we offer choices. The first book that really got me thinking about it is one I mentioned the first day, which is this book, Stewardship. And here's what Peter Block says that probably really shaped my thinking in a deep way about the power of choice and the importance of choice. He says, partners each have a right to say no. Saying no is the fundamental way we have of differentiating ourselves. To take away my right to say no is to claim sovereignty over me. For me to believe that I can't say no is to yield sovereignty. And if we can't say no, then saying yes has no meaning. I mean, choice is critical, and there are a whole lot of different researchers who've done it, particularly DC and Ryan, to say that our capacity for autonomy is one of the big things that is motivating for us. One of the DC and Ryan say one of the 3 things that motivates our life is autonomy over what we do. But this is a nuanced principle. It's not simply just do whatever the heck you want. There's more to it than that, a lot more to it. And one of the people who helps us understand the nuances is Sheena Iyengar in this book, The Art of Choosing. In The Art of Choosing, she talks about a famous study she did, which showed that too much choice isn't particularly helpful. Barry Schwartz coined the phrase in his book by the same name, the paradox of choice. The paradox of choice is when we have too many choices, it inhibits our capacity to make a choice. We're overwhelmed by all the options. You might imagine somebody going to Starbucks for the first time, confronted with, I think it's something like 15,000 different ways in which they can have a cup of coffee, who might see all those choices and be overwhelmed by choices. And many teachers suffer what researchers refer to as innovation overload. So many things going on, it's hard to choose. So part of choice is helping people make the choice. Sometimes leaders of change have to be kind of like the server at the Cheesecake Factory. If you've ever gone there, the menu is like got over 250 possible items in it. It's enormous. But if you have a great server, they'll help you through it. Instead of you having to read every one of those items, they'll say, well, what are you feeling like today? And this is a section you might want to look like. They walk you through it. They basically curate the knowledge and help you make the choice. And change leaders, that's one thing they have to do, is recognize choice isn't just about all the choices in the world. The other thing is that some choices aren't on the table. You can't just do whatever you want. Some things are non-negotiable. You can't say, for example, if you're in a school, let's have martinis at 10 every day. That's probably not going to go. The chances are there are going to be non-negotiables. There are things you have to do. But if everything's a non-negotiable, you won't have any commitment to change. You might get compliance, but you won't get a deep level of commitment. Now, one word that people struggle with when it comes to choice is the concept of accountability. And I think, and Peter Block is the one who helped me understand this, I think people have a poor understanding of what accountability is. Accountability, in my mind, isn't doing what you're told. Accountability is having a deep commitment to doing what needs to happen. I'll give you an example, and I distinguish between what I call professional or responsible accountability and irresponsible accountability. You know, we had someone come to one of our workshops in Kansas, and she said, I've got this situation. My principal went to a teacher and said, your scores aren't very good, you really need to change what you're doing. And the teacher looked at the principal and said, I'm doing everything you said. I'm implementing your program the way you said it. I'm doing it with fidelity. If it's not working, it's not me, it's your program. That's irresponsible accountability. She didn't feel any ownership because she didn't have a choice, because she was just doing what she's told. And you, if you're a coach, might work with a teacher who says, just tell me what to do and I'll do it. And what they're really saying is, I don't want to really own this thing. If you really want people to have responsible accountability, what you have to do is give them a choice. So they choose, so they own what they do, so they can make it happen in the coaching cycle. They get a clear picture of current reality. They identify a goal that's emotionally compelling to them, and they move forward. I would add one more thing about choice, and that's this. One choice that I don't think is on the table is choosing not to keep growing and developing, not if you're a professional. When you teach concepts, there are always present characteristics. In the concept of a triangle, there are 3 lines. In the concept of tragedy, it ends unhappily. Every concept always has these always present characteristics. In the concept of professionalism, an always present characteristic is continuous improvement. If you want to call yourself professional, you have to be continuously improving. I mean, how would you like to go see a doctor? Maybe with your mom, and your mom's really sick, and you don't know what's wrong, and her fever is high, and you're worried about her. And the doctor says, well, there's probably been some new treatments for this in the last 15 years, but I haven't really kept up, but what I've always done is probably okay. You would say, no, this is my mom. A life hangs in the balance. You have to be keeping up. That's what professionals do. And whether it's the operating room or the classroom, we need to be getting better at what we do. That's not a choice. Not if we want to be in the group called professional, because professionals are always committed to improvement. But the bigger picture is this. If we take away all choice, we likely take away responsible accountability. We likely take away commitment to change. We get compliance. We take away empowerment. And we take away the likelihood that the change will work. Choice is that important.
Perfect. We have 10 minutes. So I'm going to give you like 3 minutes if you would just add to this. And let me get back out of here so you can see. So we're on the choice page, slide 12. If you either write down, maybe we'll do about 3 minutes. How can we as coaches support teacher choice, or what resonated with you? Maybe 3 minutes. Jackie, you were right. I was wrong.
Oh.
My timing is horrible.
It's all good.
I think that first one was big, though. I mean, not that choice is not, but
Yeah. They're all so important and interact with each other.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Okay.
I like the giving them space. Offer limited choices. Yeah, I saw that. The smaller menu, right? I think he got me on that whole Cheesecake Factory, because I feel like that when I go to Cheesecake Factory. It's definitely tough.
Overwhelming. Yeah.
It is. It's too many choices.
To get better at what we do.
I like the no negotiating, right? I mean, we have to commit. There's some things that we just can't have choice in.
Mhm.
Great choices. Space to
Too
learn.
little choice. Yeah.
Maybe
mere
one more
compliance.
minute.
I like it. Struggle with many teachers that don't want to grow. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Do they have a growth mindset? Are they gonna, move along, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I love that he was talking about, there is it compliance.
Mm-hmm.
We're not looking for compliance. I almost feel like more of it. He kept saying accountability, but I was thinking ownership of this, right?
Right.
Please feel free to keep typing your ideas. Like I said, everybody has access to this. I just want everybody to be able to pull from the brainstorm. So please feel free to do that. But for the sake of time, I'm going to go ahead and go on to the next slide.
Sounds good. Okay. So voice is the last section that we're going to be taking a look at. And so what is voice? And our definition, Mr. Knight's definition is the most important service a coach can provide is when a coach empathetically listens to another person's ideas, thoughts, and concerns. And so we thought the two most important points about the voice principle is that we have a deep commitment to listening with care, empathizing and creating an environment where others feel comfortable talking honestly about what matters most, helping others find the words to express what really matters in their lives, and helping people find their voice, collaborating with friends and colleagues in activities that enable them to bring shape to their deepest passions. The most profound and important work, helping them find their own voice, and advocating, helping them learn to advocate for themselves. Okay, and this is the last video. I don't know if we're going to have enough time to watch the whole thing, Miss Jen.
Yeah, just let's see where we get.
Okay.
Principle today is voice. It's about letting the other person I'm with know what you say matters to me. It's about being present to the person, hearing them, not manipulating, but partnering. Voice is kind of a natural outcome of the first two principles, equality and choice. If I see you as a person who counts, if I believe you should control your life, you should have autonomy over all the things you can. There's limitations in any organization of what you can and can't do, but still. But if I believe in autonomy, I believe in equality, then chances are I believe your voice should be heard. That means I listen to you. And I ask questions not to manipulate you, but to hear what you really think. I don't judge you. I see you as a partner, and I really want to learn along with you or hear with you and not use you, but see you as a full partner in the conversation. A lot of people have written about voice in various ways. One of the books that got me thinking about this was this book, Marcus Buckingham and Kurt Kaufman's book, First Break All the Rules. There's a new edition out right now, which I've got on Kindle, but I didn't think I'd hold up my iPad. I thought I'd just hold up this book. They surveyed millions of people. I think for this book, they interviewed 80,000 people and interviewed, if I've got it right, 1 million people. And since then, they've used Gallup organization to survey many, many more people to figure out basically what's happening when people are successful, productive, happy, doing a good job at their work. More than 30 years of in-depth research came up with a list of 12 questions. They're called the Gallup Q12. And if you can answer yes to all these questions, you're probably happy and successful at work. Here is just a few of the questions. Do you know what's expected of you at work? Do you have the materials you need? In the last 7 days, have you received recognition? And then at work, do your opinions seem to count? And what they said, if your opinions don't count, chances are you're not as productive and successful and happy with your job, engaged in your work, as you would if your opinions did count. Now, the author of this book, Shane Lopez, a wonderful man, who I really respected, and we lost him recently in the last 2 years, and he was the kind of guy I wanted to be like. That's how wonderful a person he is, I guess. He wrote a great book called Making Hope Happen, which is a wonderful articulation of what's involved in hope. But he worked for Gallup. He lived in Lawrence, Kansas, where I live, but He worked for Gallup and did a lot of research. And one of the things he wanted to do is he wanted to take this G12 list of questions and pull out the one on voice. He wanted to find out, do teachers feel like their opinions matter? And do doctors feel like their opinions matter? And nurses and truck drivers and construction workers and service workers in restaurants and miners and other really big careers, big jobs people could have commonly around the country. He surveyed over 70,000 people. I met him in a little restaurant in Lawrence, 715 Mass, the day before he released his research, and I asked him what he'd found. And he told me, first off, the teachers started out most engaged. Of all those careers, they were the most engaged, but it dropped off rapidly. And then he leaned across the table and he said, you won't believe who felt their opinions mattered the least. Lower than truck drivers, lower than service workers in restaurants, lower than miners, teachers. At the bottom of the list and feeling like their opinion mattered, their voice was heard, were teachers. And that might have a lot to do with why the engagement drops off. Now, that's not necessarily true if you're in a school, but that's the average across the United States. So here's another book to consider, because what about student voice? Do kids feel they have a voice? Well, this is Russ Qualia's study. Every year he has a student voice survey. 55,000 students get surveyed. And what he found is just what Shane found, that students don't feel they have the voice. In fact, if I have the numbers correct, 51% of the students surveyed said, I don't think my teacher cares if I come to school at all. And many kids said they'd have no input on what they do, no say in what they do. And Russ makes the claim that when kids have a voice in what they do, they're 7 times more likely to achieve than when they don't have a voice. So Russ was a keynoter at our conference, the Teaching, Learning, Coaching Conference last year. And he gave his presentation, which was wonderful. He's a warm-hearted, good guy who's a magnificent presenter. And he said, does anybody have questions? And I thought, well, it's my conference. I'm going to ask a question. So I said,
Sorry about that. So I just wanted to let you know that you all have access to this slide deck. Please continue to add notes. We would really appreciate that, just as a learning tool for one another. We did mention some barriers, just some things for us to think about of why they may be barriers for coaching, and then maybe a cycle that we can think of that you might want to think about as you use these principles. We really appreciate your time today, and we enjoyed spending these minutes discussing things with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Jen. It's great working with you.